Well, for the midterms, I think the boost is pretty good. I think Democrats are feeling very confident, and they should, just for normal secular factors. It doesn't take a lot of skill to win midterms when the incumbent president is running around 37% in the polls. That's fine. I suspect that in Walz's case, there's a combination of him not feeling great about the overhang from the scandal about the daycare fraud in Minnesota, and also I think Tim Walz is an ambitious guy. I suspect he's thinking about 2028, and he may be calculating that he's got a better shot at the nomination when he's not burdened by running a state than if he is.
Interesting.
So, Gautam, there's one of the most read pieces on the Bloomberg terminal today is entitled "Trump's Ousting Maduro Shows His New World Order is Here." What do you think the new world order, according to President Trump, is?
So I think we have returned to the 19th century. And the more I think about this, what's happening, the more I think that that is the parallel we need to think to. This is an administration that thinks about the world the way American administrations did in the 19th century, but without the overlay of ideology and democratic ideology that used to be back there. But if you think about what we're seeing in Venezuela, you could almost think about this like a looting expedition, right? There's not a pretension that we're going to restore democracy. There is an opposition party that got 75% of the vote and is clearly the popular choice of the people of Venezuela, and the Trump administration just dismissed that. They're like, no, we're not interested in that. We're not interested in putting them in power. At the same time, Donald Trump has sort of openly said, this is about oil, this is about natural resources, we're doing this. And he's expanding his purview. Over the weekend, I've been chatting with people, and what I'm hearing, and I suspect you're hearing the same, is a lot of people are realizing that the threats to Greenland were not sort of Trumpian bloviating, that they are very, very real, that this is something the Europeans have to take very, very seriously. And this is how old school 19th century imperial powers acted. Right. They saw a military differential. They saw something they wanted. They grabbed it. And sometimes they pretended it was about other ideology, and sometimes they just said, I want it.
Right. So McKinley enjoined the Venezuelan crisis of 1902, 1903. You did a paper at Lawrenceville on this
a
few years ago.
Exactly.
Venezuelan crisis 0203. He was assassinated. President Roosevelt comes in, and he has to reestablish with a big stick. Do you perceive that President Trump has a Rooseveltian big stick, and where does it go from here?
Yeah, so this is another thing where a similarity to the 19th century is the differential in military power between the United States and sort of third world countries is so large that we can go in and do things like kidnapping the president of a country without taking a single American fatality. That's, you saw this in the 19th century where the British would go in with gunboat diplomacy and fight wars that lasted 23 minutes, right? So that is not a new phenomenon. It is a return to an old phenomenon. What is new, and I really think this is important that people emphasize, is Iraq and Afghanistan, where we fought an insurgency for decades and did not do well. These were not aberrations, right? In the 19th century, the sort of forces in the imperial periphery, the countries that were getting beaten up, basically, did not have the ability to inflict casualties on occupying forces. Right, the IED had not been invented yet. Sort of modern weaponry had not profligated through the world. The United States has exported hundreds of millions of modern weapons around the world. The IED is very easy to invent. We have very easy to build. We have lots of new technologies. If you try to occupy a country now, that country has the ability to bleed you out. Right? Venezuela, if the United States actually tried to do that and occupy Venezuela, we would take casualties, we would take them constantly, and we would bleed out. That is the change. We have the ability to inflict pain on people. We don't really have the ability to conquer them, and I'm not sure that the Trump administration realizes that.
Well, that kind of goes back to maybe what we learned from Iraq, which is you break it, you own it, and that begs the question now. Now, what do you think happens in Venezuela? What do you think the administration has planned for Venezuela?
So it's not, everything about this seems to have been thrown together on an ad hoc fashion with the, normal tactical and operational virtuosity of the American military covering up for some of that. But I think the New York Times or the Washington Post reported this morning that the Trump administration is considering putting Stephen Miller as the point person to run Venezuela policy or run Venezuela. I literally cannot imagine a worse choice. If you took all 330 million Americans, line them up from first to last, he would be the worst person to pick, right? So even the fact that they're considering someone like that tells you that this is not something that's been thought through. And Trump is declaring that we're going to run Venezuela. Rubio is saying, no, we're just going to coerce them.
Right.
Like, and and the idea and that somehow that Venezuelan oil revenues are going to pay for all of this. I'm sure you'll have other people talking about that, but that's farcical. Like, to bring Venezuela into a major oil exporting country again is hundreds of billions of dollars of investment and a decade of time.
Professor Mukunda, let's finish with this. Ian Bremmer's out moments ago as he's been talking about his top risks for 2026. I didn't realize Bremer started this when he was 15.
Yeah.
He's been doing it for 28 years. Okay. So Ian Bremmer says of top risk 2026, this year is a tipping point. Gautam Mukunda, do you agree that this year is a tipping point for our geopolitical risks?
Yeah, it depends on if the administration continues to sort of escalate its swings, where it went from being, like a semi-normal administration the first time around, to the first year becoming, extremely not so. And then just exaggerating more and more. Whether this has something to do with Trump's aging or something else, I don't know. But that's absolutely right. If the United States makes a move on Greenland, or God forbid, Canada, the entire world order will fall apart. The Europeans will have to react to that. And I'll just, Tom, I'm just going to leave you with the thought here that really is the thing that's floating in my head over and over again. I'm a political scientist. If you want to predict what someone in elected office will do, you just ask one question. What's popular? What's going to get them reelected? That explains 95% of all political behavior. There is not a single initiative that the Trump administration has launched in its time in power, not one, that polls well. There is not one major thing they have done that gets major public support. The thing we should all be asking is, why are these guys acting like they don't care what the outcome of the next election is going to be?